workshops. Unfortunately, this year we did not get the opportunity, but it did not stop us from doing the workshop because we did them by Zoom. And it was good. We could sit down and you could go back to them anytime you wanted to. So it gave us plenty of time to do that. So, but we will take advantage of those workshops. And policy is policy 2125, 7315 is confidential information. Employees and Craven County Board of Education members have an absolute duty to maintain the confidentiality of records as required by law. Employees and board members, by the nature of their positions, are exposed to confidential information that should not be repeated or discussed except with those recognized by law as having a right to the information. An employee or board member who is not sure whether particular information may be protected by state or federal confidentiality laws should seek clarification from his or her immediate supervisor or the assistant superintendent for human resources for employees or from the superintendent of board of education, board attorney for board members. When violations occur, appropriate disciplinary action will be taken. If a criminal violation for an employee or board member to do either of the following, this is what happened: knowingly, willfully, and with malice, permit any unauthorized person to have access to information contained in a personnel file, or knowingly and willfully examine, remove, or copy a personnel file that he or she is not specifically authorized to access pursuant Journal Statute 115C 321. So we practice integrity at all the time. We know the law and we don't do that. This is why, I'm gonna take this mask off since nobody's standing here but me. But it's just like, for instance, Dr. Doyle, and she does it well, but it is an awesome responsibility when we get cases for COVID. She let us know where the location is, but she cannot give us the name of the people who have been involved. We know that at a school, maybe 2 or 3 students or several, and she would even let us know how it was perhaps came about, but she does not tell us who those individuals are. We don't need to know that. All we know is that it has occurred. And there are other situations where information is not supposed to be shared with anybody. And so we always keep a person's business private as much as possible. So let's hold on to that. Where are we? Superintendent responsibilities. And this is policy 2010, the board and superintendent relations. We have the article. We have an article that we would like for you all to, at your leisure, to read, kind of absorb it. It speaks to superintendent superintendent responsibility, the board and superintendent relations. And this is policy 1010. The superintendent is responsible for the administration of the system of schools consistent with the board's policies. The superintendent keep the board informed about system operations. He or she make recommendations to the board as required by law and board policy as otherwise determined appropriate by the superintendent. Our superintendent assist the board in making sound decision and making the requirement of law by providing information and advice regarding all matters that require board attention. Okay. Policy 1105 is continuous improvement. The Board of Education requires the utilization of continuous quality improvement at all levels of the organization and enhances our ability to consistently meet or exceed stakeholders' requirements. We always have our stakeholders in mind. Continuous quality improvement efforts will make use of a preventative and proactive problem-solving approach that benefits our students. Everything that we do, student focus is at hand, is always our primary goal. Systematic, and sustainable continuous improvement efforts ensure that all district students receive the highest possible standard of learning that prepares each graduate for a successful workplace or post-high school learning experience. We want to make sure that when our students graduate and when they leave us, they are prepared for life. They are prepared to go to college. Those who want to go to the workforce, that they are prepared to go. The armed forces, whatever they so desire to do, we feel like we take it personal. We feel that we're working together. It is our responsibility as a school district, working together with everybody to ensure that this does happen for every student. Leadership, our Board of Education, our goal work, we work very hard on our goals. We always focus on leadership. We are considering student, stakeholder focus, human resource focus, process management, performance results, strategic planning, goals and measure. Everything has to work together. And that's what we do. And the leadership begins at the top. And that's what we do. 20 and 21 goals. We have been working hard with our goal with Jo Wheeler. She has guided us, and we feel good about the direction that we're going with our goals for our system. Goal 1.1 is Ms. Kim Smith. The board will identify, standardize, and document common school board procedures. 1.2, the Board of Education will develop a standardized approach to evaluating the effectiveness of the school board's performance. That is Mrs. B. Smith. 1.3, clarify, document, and implement a consistent process for the board to request information, resolve problems, and process concerns. And that goal has been assigned to Francis Boomer, who is me. The board will proactively promote, support, and recognize classrooms and schools that are implementing a system approach to improvement. And that goal is Ms. Stephanie King. Ms. Naomi Clark goal is the board will develop a systematic stakeholder listening system that aligns to the district stakeholder listening system, identifies special stakeholder groups, develops an assessment schedule, and establishes a corresponding timeline and process for incorporating results into the school board improvement planning process. And Mr. Carl Ippott goal is the board will establish, document, and continuously improve a process to align all board resources, training, and education to board goals and state board requirements. Mr. David Hill goal was a process will be developed to request the analysis of the degree of system implementation at the classroom, school, and district level. And Vice Chair Smith, Kim Smith, and I will get together and decide how we will go about. We may have to do some changing around with the goals. We do have a new board member, and so we have to do some. We're going to have to readjust some goals, and so. But we will contact you when we decide how we're going to go about doing that. And at this time, the board members will kind of give you some information, update, or kind of introduce to you their goals. And we're going to begin with Ms. Kim Smith, which will go 1.1, our board manual, and she's going to let us know about that. All right, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Chairman Boomer. If you'll get the big packet that Myra brought you all, that'll replace your current manual. Just pull the insides out, replace it. And I'm just going to kind of walk through it a little bit. The manual began when Bill Rivenbark was here. So this manual's been through 4 superintendents. It's been recognized nationally and then put on the shelf and grew dust and is now coming back to life. So it's been a work in progress for a long time. It is processes. It's not policies. These are agreed upon things that the boards from over the years. Some things in here were agreed on by boards before Ms. Clark got here, maybe, or certainly they're all been agreed on before Ms. Muse got here, before Stephanie got here. They all came in. It's a living document. We look at it, we adjust it. And so some of these in here will be changed as we go forward. If you look at the front, that just lists all the goals and our calendar for when we're going to review them. And we do change that sometimes. It has when we're going to evaluate the superintendent, when we're going to evaluate ourselves, which not many school boards do that. When we evaluate ourselves, the annual PDSA, all of that's in there. Some of these items are in here repeated because they're easy. I wanted you guys to have easy access for them. So Myra made this the way I have mine set up. Your front page is the contact information for us so that you can add all the contacts so the board members are able to reach each other when needed. Then you see the strategic plan, goals, and strategies, and that's later in the manual as well, but it's just there for easy access. And then our meeting schedule, which I'm horrible for still calling Myra and going, when is our meeting for December? But anyway, it's here so that we can adjust that. This optional section was not in the manuals that you had. It's one I added because we were getting so many stakeholder concerns about COVID. So there's a COVID section in here that addresses what we're doing so that instead of necessarily calling Megan or calling Myra, we can look in here for the answers for how we're handling staff when they're out, how we're handling different things.
I just want to say the directory of the board members, we're working on getting that changed right now. So you should have a new one before you leave today.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is optional. It's really not a process. It's just really for information to help us because we've got so many COVID questions coming right now. So this section is right at the front. The concern process, if you look at the beginning of the section, it's got, instead of having all the different policies there, because all of our policies are online, it just kind of gives you a quick reference for the ones that might apply to this section. You have all of the contact information for the schools, for central office, all of that is in this first section. And our concern process, it has the district concern process because they have done it. Chairman Boomer is in the process of working on this goal. So shortly you will see ours popped into this section for what our concern process will be. For right now, what's in here is the old stakeholder concern form. Okay. So what's in here right now is the district concern process. Ours is going to be updated. The only thing that's in here right now is this old stakeholder concern form, which we use, which was intended to be used for us to document our stakeholder concerns. The only thing that I would say to Ms. Muse and to everyone right now while we're working on this process is to document your concerns. Who they come from, how they come to you, all that sort of thing. So that, and then until we can get that stakeholder process in place, give you the chain of command and where they go for each one goes. But you've been in the system long enough, you probably know that already. So, but it'll be in there and it'll be updated as she does her work. The next session is our goals. And we went over them, and then you're going to see each board member talk a little bit about what they are as we move through. So this section is our goal work. Once one goal is done, another one will be created because the work never stops. The core value section, same thing. The policies are in there, the reference for you, and it lists everything for us. Election of new board members and orientation. That section is there. You will note it's got the updated district map in there for you. It's got all of the how-to things. It has the updated application form. It's got a new board member checklist to make sure that, just to make sure that we've covered the bases. That's to hold ourselves and the new board member, make sure that we've given them everything they need to be successful. And there's an application for a new board member application and the flow chart for how the agreed upon process that we've used before. Now, this is the difference between a process and a policy, because One time if you can remember back, those of us that were here, one time we followed this process, 2 times actually, to the T, where we put applications out, we interviewed, we appointed. One time we varied from the process when Joseph ran and the woman that had run against him that was elected did not live in her seat.
Right.
In her district area, we chose to not follow the process and to reappoint him because he had won his district. The district that he was charged to represent, we felt like in this case, it was a weird thing we could never think we had thought of. And so we did not use the process. That's the difference between process and policy, right? A process is what we kind of agreed on we're going to use, but we have the ability to change it as we need. So the flow chart in there for what we've agreed on is there, and how it works. We will, if we have to replace a seated board member, we would develop the interview questions and the rubric at that time because times change. The questions we want them to be relevant. The board policies, legal requirements and board responsibilities, you just got handed a lot of those. So you have them here. The application for board trained member credit, we should all try to use that so Myra doesn't have to do it for us. Again, I'm probably not great at that myself. I know I'm not. But the application for here, like if you take a training somewhere besides here, like sometimes I will take them with my role with the church, just took a racial equity one that would serve as bold. And you can put it in and you can apply to get credit for it because all of us are involved in other areas outside of the board too. So you can apply, and if it's relevant and it meets the goals, it'll count as your credit if you get it somewhere else. Board meeting, of course you'll have that, all the policies that are relevant there and the schedule. We have the schedule for the allegiance of core value. We have our process, our decision-making process, which we probably need to get on the wall to remind ourselves, how to make decisions, because sometimes, you can get emotions. When we're emotional, we can get carried away. We need to be reminded, which emotions are great. They drive a lot of good work, but we want to get it right. So we want to use the decision-making process. We've got in there also the closed session. If you want to call a closed session, all the different motions that you would need to legally reference when you did that, when you made the motion, are in there for everyone. Board conduct is in here. Again, which we'll get those updated, the updated sheets for the contact are in there. The Code of Ethics pledge, which once we all finish, if we finish the training that we're doing now, the core training, the Code of Ethics is included in there. We used to have to get Code of Ethics every year. Now we only have to get it every 2 years. But when we're done with that, we typically will sign this pledge. It doesn't get turned in. It's just sort of almost a symbolic thing that we've always chosen to do. We're going to all agree, to follow the Code of Ethics, and we keep it in our manuals for us. There are others, processes in here, board relationships, professional behavior, and policies that go with them, conflict of interest, purchasing, and all that kind of stuff. There are, again, the law on handling the concerns. And the stakeholder concerns are another a good example of difference in process and policy, because in there, in one of these sections, it might be this one, we agreed on that we were going to return calls within 24 hours. And we all know that does not sometimes happen, so that's a process that we want to shoot for. We agreed that was going to be our standard. And if it were a policy, we would have to hold each other accountable. So the process is, this is what we think is the best way to do this. And it's in there to encourage all of us to try to do that. Doesn't mean we have to solve it in 24 hours. Just means we have to acknowledge it, and acknowledge the concern and try to get everyone out. There's also a cheat sheet for Robert's rules. Not really a cheat sheet, but if you're in the thick of it and you can't remember the Robert's rules, it's in there because Ms. Clark is so amazing at it. She raised the bar and we all have to get better. So we all need cheat sheets. Ms. Clark does not. You'll see the systems level check for the board. And this is our evaluation, our systems check for how we as a board are doing on continuous improvement. The contract obligations of the board, you'll see those in there. You'll also see those updated and changed as someone will take on the goal of course, our main evaluation and our main job is the superintendent. Her evaluations, the samples of what we use to evaluate her in the process for that is in here. But also we evaluate and do our attorney. And so we'll go through the process of doing that evaluation and moving for that. And we also have outside contracts, and there's a process in there, which I'm sure will be updated here shortly as well. Then there's a how-to section, how to get your name tag, how to do all that. But Myra's so good, you probably won't have time to ask any of those questions. She'll have them before we get done. And then in the back of mine, which you guys do not have to have because it's online, I put the last organizational review, just because it's easy access for me. So that's not anything that you guys have to do. But again, this manual will change because just like you guys are all doing your goal work, and you'll each talk about what you're doing. As soon as that's done, that's going to go into the manual. So we do have to be better. This is why I had to take the goal and do it, because none of us, including me, were replacing as we move forward, replacing the items that were in there. And it's mainly just to try to help us do our work in the same kind of agreed upon way so that the public will know what what to expect from us. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Just a comment about Robert's Rules of Order. I don't expect anyone to love it as much as I do. That being said, I had mentioned it to the Madam Chair. It might be more effective if at some point when you and she meet, we consider having Mr. Gatchell train everybody
Great idea.
so that I've got 5 different versions of Robert Rules. And again, I don't expect y'all to pour over that, but I think it will make the meetings flow more smoothly and know when motions are appropriate. So thank you, though.
That's a great idea.
We had talked with Dave, and I had already talked with Mr. Gatchell, because we know that you had requested that, and he has agreed that he will meet with us, because as a school board, we can use some flexibility even with Robert rules. And we know we need to know when we can and when we can't. So yes, we are going to have that meeting, and we will try to get with Mr. Gatchell as soon as possible so that we can do that. But thank you for that suggestion. We are going to follow through with that. Thank you, Ms. Smith. That is a lot of hard work, but you have done a great job, and all we got to do is just put them in our books. So we appreciate that.
Slide it in and go by.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you, because this is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Ms. Smith has to leave, and so we want to skip her goal.
I'll just say
Unless
that
you got it, she got it.
it represents, the matrix at the front, very front of your manual is really Ms. B's
Okay?
table. The work of her goal is represented by that matrix.
Right.
When the organizational reviews happen, when the superintendent's evaluation happens, when you evaluate the board attorney, and, that type of thing. Some of it has been affected a bit by COVID, obviously, but it is supposed to be a work in progress, and it is continuously improved each year. So that's Ms.
Okay.
B. Smith's goal.
Ms. Key?
Nope, nope, you're up.
You're next.
Oh, just get you. Your picture can go back.
Oh, that's you.
No,
It's skipped to you, it's skipped to her.
Oh, is it me or her?
It's her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what I saw your face. All righty. Okay, mine is my goal is the process, chain of command, how we handle our board concern process. And we always know that there is a chain of command to do this. And the chain of command is the appropriate channel to take to get the problem solved. And the person at the lowest level and closest to the problem should strive to solve the issue first. And involving senior levels too early in the process strips lower levels of their ability and responsibility to solve the problems. The chain of commands move up through the organization to the superintendent and ultimately to the Board of Education. It starts with, for instance, if there is a classroom situation, if a parent has a problem with a teacher because of his or her child, then that parent is not to go immediately to the Board of Education. We will probably get concerns like that. And what we do when we get concerns like that, we follow the proper chain of command. And we first, and of course we know from experience, the first thing we do is ask the teacher to have a conference with the parent, try to get those two persons together to see if they can resolve the issue. Sometimes just a means of communication will really get the problem solved. And if that doesn't work, then we encourage that parent to contact the principal of that school and see if they can get it resolved. And of course, the principal, the administrator themselves, they have ways of bringing the parents and the teacher together to see if they can get something accomplished. And after they have tried everything that they can at the at the school level, then they are encouraged. There is a process for that too. It's in our process. Not everything has to immediately go to where, we go to the superintendent. If it's a problem that we can't, if it's a concern that we have, and it's a valid concern, the superintendent works with the person who has the concern. We do turn things down. We try not to overwhelm her, but she has people in her organization, the flow, and where she will refer those problems to. But the bottom line is we start with that lower level person first before we go to the higher level. Just don't throw everything at central services when we can handle a lot of the problem in school. And in addition to that, we are not the ones that need to be solving the problem first. And that's why we have a chain of command. Once they have exhausted everything and they have done all they can do, that's when they would approach the board members. But other than that, and by the time, if they would follow, if all of us will follow the chain of command, we probably wouldn't have to have, so much of the rest, okay? Avoid a lot of confusion. But we also need to keep in mind that when we do a prompt and effective response to a concern, a question, or request for assistance, build satisfaction and loyalty. When we get those concerns, we don't sit on. We address them immediately. Because if we don't address them, guess what? They become problems later on. There may be a concern, and it just can escalate into something that was totally uncalled for. So we do show interest. We do want to address their concern. But once we do that, and we do it in the most effective manner, but also we do it as quickly as we possibly can.
Can I add one thing to that?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with Dave, and you might want to do differently, but remember, typically we have always, if it comes to the whole board, typically we allow the chair to respond. Not that we can't. If you want to, fine.
Right.
But we always know that if it comes to all of us and we're all seeing it, we sort of, the chair's gonna respond.
And he did.
Yeah, and he did. So we're certainly not relying on or keeping your ability to respond yourself, but that helps. It helps sometimes to know that we didn't all have to respond to the same thing.
It's good. Thank you for putting that in. Yes, that is something that we need to think about. So look like I'll be doing most of the responding. Okay. And we look for patterns and trends, and that will assist in eliminating the root causes of concern. Sometimes parents may be our stakeholder may be sitting in the same problem, that we know that's a problem. It's a trend. If the same thing comes over and over again, that's where we need that, something needs to be done immediately. This process should also separate concern from questions and requests for assistance, and they are handled completely different. And that's why it's so important that we do have an effective board concern process, and we do. Ms. Muse, we are going to, I have a pack. I'm gonna give you what I have after the meeting is over. You all already have it when we went over the workshop that we had. That's what we have so far. We have not done anything differently. And so, but if the rest of you need for me to send it to you again, I will.
I don't think
the flow chart.
we do not have that. We do not have the board process, or unless you put it in there. We
No,
do.
if you give me that, then I'll get it to everybody. Okay, this is the one. I ran this off last night. This is what Joe gave me. And so I'll make sure that you all get a copy of it. Okay, and it kind of explains what we're talking about. Is the concern process that we went over in the meeting. But but when, like I said, sometimes we have to realize as board members, we can't solve everybody's problems. And we try, but we can't do it. And that's why we have a chain of command. And that's why we have a process, because we cannot do it. And then it's not our job to do it when we have people already in place who have a lot more knowledge about doing these things than what we do. And so if it's a curriculum problem, I know I can't solve it, but I know that at times Dr. Dig is going to run down to her department. Transportation is going to run down. So we have a process for all of that. And once we follow the process, it avoids confusion and frustration, and we can all, see where we're going. So that pretty much is, in essence, what the board concern process is. It is to follow the chain of command to keep order, but at the same time to address the issues that our stakeholders have, because we don't want them, we want to keep the line of communication. We want them to feel like we care about their concerns, because we really do. But it's a way that we have to address their concerns. And if we follow the process, then everything will be in order. And they'll feel comfortable coming to us because they know that we are going to direct them in the right direction. So that concludes the review of my process.
And I think, chairperson, Boomer, I think for me, I can't speak for anybody else. I think because I'm such a fixer, that when something comes to me, I don't want to take it to somebody else.
Right.
I want to go ahead and do it myself. But sometimes when we do that, we make more of a mess.
We do.
We make more of a mess because we may know one side of it,
Right.
but we've often heard, and it is true, there's usually 3 to 4 sides
It is.
to a story or situation. And, but our passion and our, our love for what we do, starts to ring, in our ears when somebody comes with a situation that we just want to fix it. But I think but what you're saying is true. And if we just, kind of take our hands out of the pot, and send it to where it needs to go to, we'll find that most of the time there's, more to the situation or the story than we were given at that particular time. And it'll be fixed. But, we're impatient people sometimes, and we want it fixed as soon as the problem occurs. But I appreciate that, because I need to hear that often myself, because I like to get it fixed. I like to fix it like yesterday.
Right.
My goal is what I consider like a fun one, because we love recognition of, the great things that are going on in Craven County schools. And I think this actually started last year or no, 2 summers ago. I remember being at a 7th grade meeting at one of our teachers' homes, and the superintendent called, and I said, I need to step out because it's the superintendent. And when I, reached Dr. Doyle on the phone, I could hear the panic in her voice. And I said, what is going on? And she said, there's some things that are broken and we need to fix them. And I said, okay, we do. And long story short, we all agreed to bring Ms. Wheeler back to help us to realign some things in Craven County. And so far, we've always been pleased with what is going on. And now we're at the part where we open it up to our schools to decide whether or not they wanted to embrace this step in our alignment. And we had some schools that were ready to embrace this change. And now we're at the point of recognizing them, because I look at exit surveys a lot, Mr. Alcott. And in looking at exit surveys, one of the reasons why people don't stay is because they don't feel appreciated. Okay. Truth be made known, it's not a lot to deal with the money, because we've always made pennies and peanuts. But when we don't recognize and appreciate their efforts, if like with Ms. Smith, if we didn't tell her what a great job, a massive job this was itself, and then a great job, then the next time it may be half-handed because they didn't appreciate what I did. The same thing goes for our teachers. Those who have stepped up to the plate to embrace this change, and by change, all we're talking about is to continually improve. We just want to make sure that it is documented, so that when we notice steps or processes that need to be improved in our classrooms, we're more cognizant of it because we're looking at it. So the board is now at the part where we are going to begin discussing how we want to recognize those teachers, how we want to recognize their efforts for the changes that they're making in their classrooms to continually improve student achievement. One of the things that we know that we already do is our district spotlight process. We have certain criteria that must be made for a personnel or a group of teachers or staff members to be recognized. But this one is centered around the umbrella of our continuous improvement. So what the board is going to begin doing is to begin our thought process of how we're going to recognize it, because we know it's going to look different because we have face-to-face teachers, we have virtual teachers, we have the Craven Live, we have the ones that are going to the hubs and helping out. We have teachers and teaching all over the place right now. So we know that it's going to look differently than how it has looked in the past, but that's where we are. I want to read this about change real quickly, if I can. And it says that when we start thinking about change, there are three options. We can fight it and delay it, but we'll change eventually because the change is still going to change, right? We can ignore it and hope it'll go away, but it won't. And we'll be overcome by it because we chose not to embrace it. And option number three, which is what Craven County Schools has done, we can embrace it, look forward to it, and we'll find our trip much more interesting, controllable, and enjoyable. So I think that that's what we've done so far in Craven County Schools. We've always, supported our teachers in their efforts, and I think this is the catalyst for us to begin that change academically, performance-wise, that we want to see in our classroom. So as a board, we're going to start that conversation about how it's going to look as far as recognizing those teachers. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Thank you for taking on that massive goal, because that's a huge goal, and you're a busy woman.
But it's so important.
It is very important.
Everybody wants a pat on the back.
Yeah.
To say,
It's
thank
encouraging.
you. I appreciate what you're doing, even though it may not have you may have missed the mark, but at least you were,
Right.
trying to get to the mark. So I think it's very important.
I think it's very encouraging,
Mhm.
and I think it's well needed. And, on a sad day, when somebody just smile at you, it make you feel better.
That's right.
And so if we can, recognize the great accomplishment that they have done, I think it's a good goal,
It is.
and it's necessary.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Naomi Clark?
Thank you. This too is a fun goal for me, and I want to compliment or just sort of supplement what Ms. King is doing. It says the board will develop a systematic stakeholder listening system that aligns to the district stakeholder listening system. This sort of amplifies the voice of the students, the parents, and the teachers. And if we're going to talk about recognizing these stakeholders, we've got to listen to them.
That's right.
We're evolving. Ms. Will and I just started working on it, but it's a work in process. This also sort of ties into another of my favorite subjects, and I have many, Ms. King, is transparency. Transparency. How are we going to connect so that we create a culture, not just with the parents, but with the teachers and the students, so that they feel comfortable, not just coming to me, but going to the principal, not just going to the principal, but going to Dr. Doyle if necessary. So again, when you talk about, Madam Chair, about divvying this up, I just hope that you would consider perhaps adding Mrs. Muse as opposed to taking away favorite subjects.
Oh, no, okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think we've worked really, really hard to
Oh,
use
no, I
everybody's
don't- no,
strengths.
no.
We're not going to have signing the goal.
no.
Yeah. I think we've worked really hard. I think we've done a good job of matching everybody's strengths with their interests
All right,
and
so,
trying to find something that you enjoy
all right.
Definitely.
No, we would not do that.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we were saying.
Ms. Muse, I hope you understand there's no reflection on you. I welcome your help and you being a part of the effort, okay?
You're fine. I'm actually hoping I'll get to do something with finance too.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Mr. Ipock.
Thank you. Boy, where to start? Many years ago, just to set a little context, we had a new board member who had lots of questions about what our processes were, how we did this, how we did that. I think a new board member coming in and asking questions sometimes puts others on edge just a little bit. What are they looking for? You know, what's the agenda here? And as we went through that learning process and had our meetings and in a total quality context, we began to hear that they were genuine questions about how we as a board perform and take care of our responsibilities and what those responsibilities are. And it was out of that we began to focus on the idea of actually composing the parts that became the manual. And that was in itself quite a journey, because there was no part that magically appeared and this is the way we do that. It would come, we would discuss it, we would do flow charts, we would see what fit and maybe what didn't. We'd put it into practice, and then we'd come back and we'd make adjustments. And gradually the manual grew, even to the point that we were finally asked to go and present to other boards around the country what it was we were doing, because it wasn't necessarily common. Again, it reflects the policies, but it is really the procedures that the board, any board, would choose to operate under. So it's always subject to review and improvement. One of the parts that was foundational in, getting everybody started at the same place is this idea of School Board 101, which is offered by the School Board Association, and a number of other very varied trainings that are available to us over time. And on the other hand, a requirement in the state law that we achieve 12 hours of training. It used to be up until just a couple of years ago per year, and then it was changed to every 2 years. And I think that was because of economics as much as anything. But our boards always worked hard to make sure that every member was engaged in getting the trainings and sharing the information. And then they invented, the School Board Association invented this new adaptation, which happened to be the virtual. And it was before all of this has happened. So it's so natural now, but we were able to get trainings without actual presence. And we could actually attend a session live without actual presence. So those are the methods that we use to meet our individual requirements. It's also important because at the school board level, at the state, looking across the state, they have recognitions, and they have like a gold apple, a silver apple, a bronze apple. And a gold apple represents all the board members have had all the training inside of a calendar year. And we've always been successful in achieving that and feel good about it. Now, there are 115 systems. Generally, there are 30 or so systems that will achieve a gold apple. So it's not every day, but it's not uncommon either. So I think that sets the context of what this goal is about in how we meet not only our obligation to the legal aspects, but also fulfill our goals as a board to achieve a level of recognition that we feel like shines positively on our board trying to do its job correctly. Now, there's a tremendous tracking system for everything that's turned in. And as has been mentioned by others, it can be trainings that are away from here that have relevance to the work we do, like an equity training in the church. It can be School of Government. There are any number of places that you can go and you can get training, and we submit them to Myra, and she makes sure that everything is there submitted to the School Board Association, and it gets checked off. And then online, you can go in and see all the courses that you've had when you accomplish them. When you take a course also, you have the opportunity to do a survey. And as you walk through that survey, you're basically certifying that you took the course, that you met the requirements, especially if it was online, but even the in-person. And the credit is awarded, and then they're tracked. Myra does a wonderful job of making sure that we have in our hands on a probably quarterly basis, Myra. I think that's kind of a good target. The training credits that we have and where we are in the year and where we are in total. At the school board association level, there are also recognitions for numbers of hours of training. And that's quite a progression that goes from, where you start with your first trainings through, I'm trying to think of some of the categories, but it's graduated and there are about 12 of them, and it ends with a scholar. And that's the maximum number of hours that they track that says you've been through all of this training over time. And of course, that implies that it takes time to get it because you've got to have some years of contact with all these courses to be able to, gain that total number of hours. Again, our board members have been very good about staying on track and getting that cumulative and therefore recognition every year by the School Board Association for new levels of achievement. And we appreciate that. The last thing I'll say is the history of our board is that because of some of these activities that we were doing that became known to the people at School Board Association, especially because they see what all the school systems are doing, we got flagged as being a good example of doing the job of school boarding right. And they recognized our board a number of years ago as the first recipient of the School Board of the Year, which was a nice designation. And I just noticed that Wilson County was the most recently designated School Board of the Year. So I think we've got some common blood shared as we look at our histories together. All of this, though, aimed at one thing, and that is making sure that we have a good understanding of the law, a good understanding of our responsibilities, and then together developing a process or procedures that allow us to accomplish that in the least haphazard and most direct way to answer the questions in front of us. The questions in front of us, of course, would be the questions that come to us and the questions from our community and our stakeholders and our family inside the school system.
Can I add one thing to that? The
Oh,
importance of
would you
that, of yours,
please?
is the financial piece of that, the accountability for resources. Because remember, the whole discussion was the system when we first began this goal. The professional development was not aligned; it was all over the place for the system as well as our board. So a crucial piece of this is making sure that we model for our system level that we expect the training to be efficient as well, that we want to keep it in those financial boundaries so that we are aligned and doing the work.
Excellent point, where we placed a kind of a self-governing aspect
Right.
to the monetary cost, which individually made us look at, okay, I want to get the most training I can, but I want to do it the most efficiently and cost-effective way. And so virtual, has become more and more a really good way to address that. Last point. The annual recognitions always have been at our November annual meeting. And of course, this year that had to be virtual.
Right.
And everything has changed. But there will be the day that we go back to having that annual meeting and the breakout sessions. And I look forward to that chance to be among all the school board members across the state, sharing experiences and learnings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alpert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to, you want to make some comments about his goal, Ms. Dr. Doyle?
Just
Okay.
that as you finish this portion of it, that we have lunch and then we'll take a break to just reset.
Okay. I think we have finished. Unless, Ms. Muse, do you have any questions, any comment that you would like to make at this time?
No.
Good. You good? Okay. Anybody else? Any comments and questions that you have?
Just remind you to give Dr. Doyle that sheet so she can make us all
Yes, sir.
copies.
Yes, ma'am, I sure will.
And if
Thank you.
if it's the board's wishes, you can get your meal, get seated after you take maybe a break, take care of your personal self, and then we can start going about 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's okay?
Mhm.
The sooner the better, the quicker. Go home, I guess. But y'all had this chain of command and stuff that I had got, didn't?
I will start the process for just providing orientation to school system administration. The district organizational chart, of which you should have a copy. And if you don't have a copy, I think there is one in the board procedures manual, but if there's not, we'll get you another copy today. 4 of our members of cabinet, in addition to myself, will be providing overviews of their large divisions and will provide information to the board about just the key processes and responsibilities that happen with the directors and their direct reports. Just as a reminder, it's the board's job to set the goals and key measures for Craven County Schools. And those goals and key measures drive our strategic plan and the work of the district. All the work that we're doing in from our classroom level all the way up to the boardroom is aligned with these goals. Even the goals that the Board of Education provided are aligned to our large strategic priorities. These goals are also aligned with the state's directives in terms of school, student, and district performance. They are focused on 5 kind of key priority areas: the learner, the educator, teaching and learning, so the process of how we ensure that our educators are well qualified and prepared to teach our students and to ensure that they learn. Community engagement and leadership, ensuring that our community is engaged in the work of our system. And as we hear in our training oftentimes, that community engagement is selfish. It's focused on the goals of our students and our system as a priority. And then operations and resources, ensuring from the point of view of citizens that the work that we're doing is the most effective and efficient, and our utilization of our human, financial, and material resources is effective and efficient as well. This goes to kind of 3 large stakeholder requirements. Ms. Boomer provided kind of the overview of the integrated management system, which is kind of the bubble chart, and you'll see a lot of that in our training moving forward. But there are 3 key stakeholder requirements. One is that we optimize student achievement. Our stakeholders, our parents, community members, students for sure, expect us to ensure that students are achieving at the highest possible levels. Our citizens also expect us to provide effective and efficient operations, again, that our human, financial, material resources and our resources of time, which is also a very valuable resource, are used in the most effective manner, that people are doing the work that they are tasked to do, and that we are efficiently utilizing those resources to get the most impact for those expenditures. And then finally, a big stakeholder requirement is that our schools are safe and inviting for teaching and learning, which is what we're tasked in doing. So those 5 goals that kind of came from our strategic planning committee, which was aligned with our community's vision for public education, can be categorized into those 3 kind of stakeholder requirements. And let me also say that these broad goals that you see on this slide are long-term goals. We want to achieve, improving the performance of our schools to A and B status, for example, over the course of the next several years. But each year we put into place interim goals that allow us to meet those targets that are long-term. And so what you'll see in the next couple of slides are how those short-term 1-year targets have been aligned to our stakeholder requirements and our strategic plan. So first, again, that Craven County Schools will be designated with school performance grades of A or B by the state of North Carolina by exceeding growth and increasing proficiency in reading and math, as well as increasing proficiency in science. We don't have a growth measure in science. And then graduating all of our students college and career ready by increasing the graduation rate and improving the ACT Work Keys indicator. All of these measures come directly from the state's accountability system. There's no use in creating measures that are not aligned with the state system. One, because 70% of our resources come from the state of North Carolina, but also 2, because we are a state education system, we are bound to achieve their goals using their accountability system. 2, Craven County Schools teacher turnover rate will be at or below the state rate. And this is ensuring that our educators are the most highly qualified, but also are retained in Craven County Schools. This goal is very important to us. It's also one that we have had significant challenges with, and an area that has been an intense focus from our Human Resources Division. District Goal 4 is that Craven County Schools will develop, monitor, maintain, and continuously improve a community engagement system that supports and informs our strategic plan and school improvement plans. This is aligned directly to Ms. Clark's goal of the stakeholder engagement that the board does. First, that we want to have, and this is divided into some sub goals. Our district will report high levels of customer satisfaction. Also, that students, family, staff, and community will report improved communication with the school system as well. This goal team, for example, is driven by the work of Ms. Jennifer Wagner. Finally, Goal 5, and this is one that our board just added a third goal to for this year, directly related to the situation we find ourselves within with COVID, related to technology. But Craven County Schools will model a high-performing organizational culture so that our schools and our district align, improve, and integrate our work to ensure learning and performance excellence for all students and educators. Ms. King very aptly described the work that we are doing with system improvement in Craven County Schools. The way you get improvement in a school system is first through alignment. We've heard this before. Then it's through working towards in that PDSA cycle of continuous improvement. And then finally, it is integration. I've heard that many, many times, but every time I hear it, especially as I hear sitting in training that our teachers are taking, I understand more and more the critical piece of, we've been working on alignment for the last 10 months. And I say only 10 months because COVID has really disrupted some of our work, but the intense focus on this work has been continuous, but has had some challenges and some obstacles. But alignment is what we've focused on. But we're also starting to do more of that continuous improvement work. You'll start hearing, as you hear our staff present information at board meetings, and we're starting to hear even more in our cabinet meetings, discussions of not just the plans that we've put in place and what we're doing, but how we're studying whether that's working and using that to make even more improvements in those processes. That again is the improvement part of this cycle. Again, in this goal, Craven County Schools will deploy a systems approach to achieving performance excellence at all levels. So that's our continuous improvement deployment plan. Craven County Schools will provide a core IT infrastructure, including hardware, software, human resources, and facilities that is secure, resilient, and adaptable to meet the current and anticipated future needs of Craven County Schools students, educators, and staff. This is the goal that we added just recently because as we are challenged by the lack of network accessibility or internet accessibility by all of our students, we need to be constantly beating the drum with our community, our strategic partners, particularly the county government and any other community partners that can assist us in ensuring that our students have reliable internet access for those who don't have it at all, but also for those who have it, but it is inconsistent sometimes at best. And that is something that Mr. Lee is going to be working on. And then finally, Craven County Schools facilities will meet all federal, state, and local safety standards, and parents, students, and school level employees will rate our facilities to be safe, inviting, and appropriate for learning. Again, goals that we hear from our stakeholders and that really represent the core requirements that our customers have for us on a regular basis. That strategic plan is summarized at the top level by kind of the red section of this flow chart. The key strategies for achieving each of those goals is listed below. You'll see things that are repeated, for example, in reading, math, and science. The key strategy is to align our curriculum, instruction, and assessment program. This is work that, again, in our accreditation visit 4 years ago was feedback received by our district as an area of significant lacking. It's also an area that has been underway for a significant amount of time. Making this work systematic is still a key strategy for improvement. And then also making sure that we are screening and assessing our new students to ensure that they are quickly integrated into our learning systems and are not spending so much time shoring up gaps, but are also able to make progress as soon as they get into our classrooms. If they're coming, especially our military students, and many of our students are transient as well. So again, you'll see some repeated strategies for those curriculum and instruction type goals, and then you'll see key strategies under each of the other goals that I've mentioned today. Again, just going back to what Ms. King referenced, our approach to improvement is an organizational approach. And at first, we focus on alignment, making sure that our goals, for example, are aligned with the state's. That goes to the measures, especially that we select to assess ourselves, and that our schools, classroom, and our learners' goals are aligned to those district strategic plan goals and key measures. Remember that alignment is the first way that we can start to see improvement. And this graphic that you see on this slide is this bubble chart over here, which again has leadership at the top. The leadership of the board is the most critical portion of leadership in the district. So when you look at the district bubble, which is the second one from the bottom, the leadership portion of that is this governance team that sits in this room, led by the chair and the vice chair and the members of the board, working in partnership with the superintendent. So again, the board adopts the goals. It is the job of the superintendent to operationalize them and to put processes in place to achieve those goals and to continually assess. One other critical component of that is organizational reviews, where the board receives updates on the progress of our work in achieving our annual goals quarterly directly to the board. And those organizational reviews provide an opportunity for each goal team manager to present information to the Board of Education, to receive, again, updates on progress and the areas that we have identified as gaps or areas that we can intervene to provide even more improvement, really focusing on that PDSA process. The other thing to recognize, and I want to be really clear about, is we have schools that are going through school improvement, but that school improvement is also being done in parallel at the district level through division planning, department planning, and eventually we'll get to office and individual plans that our professional staff is creating and our classified staff as well. And our school improvement plans, grade levels or departments have plans, classrooms and students. The classroom plans are nothing more than our unit plans, but also incorporating Plan, Do, Study, Act in the improvement of learning systems in those classrooms. That is also what Ms. King spoke about in terms of her celebrating, and the board really get involved in systematically celebrating teachers for the work that they are doing to improve learning in their classrooms. But this alignment work really is successful when we recognize that each component is within a greater system and that there are levels of that system that operate together. Finally, continuous improvement. If you just looking at this bubble chart, the continuous improvement part is in the process management section. And that is, I said a minute ago that we plan and put into place, we take action steps a great deal, but it's the study part that we are working to get better at. Studying our results, not at the end, but in the middle of our implementation so that we can see, is what we're doing making an impact? If it is, let's keep going with it or extend it to other places or other classrooms. Or is it not working or we need to make a tweak? We're going to make that adjustment and continue to study and go around the cycle continuously. So that process improvement, or this PDSA, is a critical tool that we use to ensure that we are successful with the strategies that we're implementing. PDSA is embedded in our action planning documents at the district level, department, schools, and classrooms. Just as the Board of Education has a concern process, so does the district. We receive concerns and we respond to them as well. We have concerns that come both from internal and external stakeholders. Sometimes we get concerns which are questions or just requests for assistance. Can you help me to find this information? That's a really quick answer. Sometimes that, as a board member, will come to you. You may get a request for assistance and you point them in the right direction, and it's not really a concern, but that question has been resolved. But other times it is a concern. We sometimes have to make the assessment of whether the concern is valid or a credible concern. Sometimes we get concerns that may ask us to do things that we are not capable or not tasked with being able to do. And so we have to respond to those folks and let them know that this is not in our wheelhouse. This is not something that we can accommodate at this time, or it's not something that we have even the authority to do. But we do provide some kind of a recognition of that and a response. Otherwise, if the concern is valid, if it is credible, then we use that chain of command that was provided to you to decide who should be addressing the concern, again, focusing on the level of work where the concern arose. If the concern arose at the classroom level, generally the best solutions are going to be found at that classroom level. Sometimes, those concerns, especially right now as we're trying to deal with the many challenges that are happening with COVID and its impact on student achievement, those concerns also, though, do, because of the trend of those concerns, warrant some district intervention or school level intervention. And that's some of the information that we've shared with the board that we address. We analyze the trends in those district concerns. We bring those to cabinet and use that to assist us in making improvements. And that is a process that we're working to make more systematic. Finally, talking about the folks who report specifically to me, Chairman Boomer aptly said that Ms. Myra Flowers is kind of the support network for everyone in this room, quite frankly. She facilitates processes for the board. She also facilitates key district processes as well. One, she provides administrative support to each of you. She serves as the Board of Education's records custodian, which means that in terms of public records law, she holds all of the records, both the closed session, but also the open session minutes, which at this point, because of technology, have been made much easier to access. She facilitates board training. That doesn't mean that she gives it, but she organizes it, ensures that you get your credit as is indicated in the procedures manual. She maintains minutes and manages the board's travel budget. So she'll provide updates generally to Mr. IPOC, because this is his goal work, who will then distribute that information to the board to provide information to you about where your balance is in terms of classes you've taken or coursework that you are trying to take. And then she provides district support in key processes. She obviously provides administrative support to me. I cannot do my work without her. She also works with our front office, front desk staff, maintains our district procedures and policy regulations. She facilitates the cabinet meeting agenda development and item review and approval process. We do that together. She processes leave for all of our administrators and keeps me up to date on that. Serves as the payroll administrator for many of our central services folks, and then updates the district profile information with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Facilities also reports to me, and that is Mr. Jeremy Russell. He is responsible for developing, implementing, monitoring, and improving the long-range facility master plan. That's work that we still have yet to continue. He coordinates district building maintenance and coordinates school custodial services, implements and leads emergency preparedness for our facilities. Now, Mr. Lee will talk about the work that happens around security, which falls under his division, but that's different from the facilities emergency preparedness, like hurricane preparedness and that type of thing. He monitors the annual capital outlay budget and helps to prepare it and seeks input to do that, and coordinates planning and property management processes for the district. Ms. Wagner, as you all know, and we'll get to know if in different ways if you have not, she facilitates district communication processes with the media, stakeholders, and our customers directly. through staff and family newsletters, all about Craven, which she works on with Mr. IPOC, and all the different social media outlets, as well as general media. So she is the liaison with our news media and print media sources. She monitors and continuously improves school system websites and helps to coordinate training on the website. Manages the district notification system, which is Blackboard for us. Usually when there's a weather event, you get to hear Ms. Wagner's beautiful voice. She plans and deploys district special events like the red carpet and works with human resources to do that, and supports educator recognition again with Dr. Miller in that work. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tasha Diggs. Hold on a second. Who is going to talk about academic services. Yes, your turn. You just tell me to switch, or you want to hit the button?
I'll tell you to do it. You
Okay,
tell me to
great.
Do something with time.
Be my pleasure.
Good afternoon, board members. And congratulations to our returning board members, our newly elected board members, and our new chair and vice chair.
Thank you.
The services that fall within academic services are 4 departments that fall within my part of the division. As you know, Ms. Lee and I work closely together in curriculum and instruction, but the 4 departments that fall within my division, my part of the division are student services, secondary education, career and technical education, and digital and blended learning. And we'll talk a little bit about each of those and the key processes within those. First, we have secondary education, and obviously the board's aware because this is on the Human Resources Report. Dr. Nishan Dawson will be rejoining Craven County Schools in just a couple of weeks, hopefully. And these are the key processes that will fall within secondary education. And you can see those listed at the bottom, but obviously going directly back to what Dr. Dole said earlier about our work toward achieving our strategic goals as a district, the secondary side of that would fall within this department, which would focus on many of these. And this is obviously not all inclusive, but maintaining our relationships with the community college, with Career and College Promise. And she and I, along with Ms. Blunt, work directly with the community college on this particular piece of this. Secondary scholarship, college advising, working directly with Ms. Blunt with that, with our secondary schools and high schools, as well as middle schools, and making sure that they're aware of what's coming up for them when they get to that point. The next bullet, the facilitate, develop, implement, and continuously improve secondary school leader and teacher professional learning. Obviously, that's something that our entire division will be working toward, but making sure that Dr. Dawson is directly leading the aspect of it when it comes to our secondary principals and teachers and those school leaders. And then the resources and curriculum and programs that come along with that, as well as collaborating with student services, which is Ms. Debbie Hodges, another department within our division. But when it comes to that aspect of how it connects to secondary education with our middle and high schools, they'll be working closely together, which you'll obviously see as a theme within our entire division. No one can accomplish their work alone, so you'll see that connection in everyone working together to accomplish those goals. Next within our division, career and technical education, and that's Ms. Holly Tolston, and she's presented to you many times in the past, and you can see the key processes that fall within career and technical education. Obviously, key to that is compliance and implementation when it comes to Perkins 5, our federal that federal aspect of this when it comes to our career and technical education with our middle and high schools. And she works directly with those teachers as well as the career development coordinators, the CDCs, in making sure that these programs are implemented appropriately. Some key things that come along with that is the alignment with our local, regional, and statewide workforce needs, making sure that the courses that we put in place in our schools are meeting those needs and we're not doing it randomly. And I think that's something that we're trying to definitely move away from, so that it's not just we're adding the easiest courses to add, but are we meeting our workforce needs, particularly our local workforce needs, and making sure that it's meeting the needs of our students. And along with that comes the externships and internships that we've had students present to the board about in the past. Establishing and maintaining the relationships with local businesses. And again, that's connected back to the academic and workforce needs of our local community. But in doing their work that she and Ms. Davis put in place in our schools, working directly with the CDCs and the school principals and our special populations coordinator in our schools to make sure that those programs are meeting the school students' needs, as well as I said earlier, our local community needs. Next, within our division, we have student services, and this is headed up by Ms. Debbie Hodges. And hers is a wide variety of things, as everyone knows. Everything from health services with our nurses to athletics, which we were just working on, working with our homeless students under the McKinney-Vento Act and making sure that we're providing meeting the needs of those students when it comes to their academic services, as well as some of the social service needs and putting them in connection with the right referral agencies. And then next under that, the student behavior piece, the student code of conduct. She works closely with myself, as well as she'll be working closely with Dr. Dawson, as well as with Ms. Pam Collins when it comes to our student code of conduct. And that was something we talked to the board about recently as far as things we're looking to implement for this school year. And then another big piece of student services work is obviously our school counselors and making sure that the services and processes involved with those departments that are housed within all of our schools are meeting the students' needs. And a big piece of that is a continuous improvement along with everything else. So we're trying to make sure we're meeting the students' needs. And going back to something Dr. Doyle mentioned earlier, that has been exacerbated based on the situation that we're in. Not that it wasn't a big need earlier, but it has become something that we're trying to figure out how to do under our new normal when the students aren't there face to face and you can't put your hands on them on a regular basis. So that is a key process there, as well as the dropout reduction process that falls within this. And as like I said earlier, Ms. Hodges does a lot of other things that come along with this, but those are the big key process areas in her part of the department. And then lastly, digital and blended learning, and this is a new department for us. And that's headed up by Ms. Kelly Williamson. And you can see the key process areas listed there for her, but definitely the big bullet at the top: develop, implement, monitor, and continuously improve virtual and blended learning professional growth. Because as of March 13th, this became something that we all had to figure out really quickly, which was not something that everyone was prepared to do. Some of our teachers were a lot further along in their comfort level when it came to digital and blended learning, but having to do it really quickly and not have the time to prepare the students before they went home. That was huge because we wanted them to feel comfortable and we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So the professional growth that she will be providing for our school leaders and our teachers, as well as for our students and parents, because we have to make sure that we include them in the process of learning what this looks like for their students, because we'll have some students that in all likelihood will continue learning in a virtual environment by choice, even after we are able to bring all the students back to school. Another big piece of her work includes the learning tools that she's introduced teachers to and continue to provide training for those, as well as her work with the media coordinators and their role in the digital and blended learning process, because their role has completely changed from what we used to see as a librarian's role before. So there's been training that they have gone through in this process so that they can better support the teachers on campus. And the last one, maintaining that resource toolbox so that the teachers, students, parents, and community members have that resource that they can always go back to and they know where these things are housed. And that's something that we are working to continuously improve, because we want to be sure they can easily find these resources so that they can do, even if it is something that's self-paced or monitored on their own, or if it's something they need to have provided for them by the schools, so that we can be sure that they're able to support their students' learning moving forward, particularly if we, and I believe we're going to be in this situation a little bit longer, but even when it's by choice, having the remote and virtual options for the students to meet their learning needs, because some students are thriving in this learning environment, so we want to be sure that we're supporting them. Any questions? Those are the areas within my section of the division.
I have I guess I need to ask Dr. Doyle and the two of you together. I would like to, at the next meeting, if possible, if we can get Ms. Blunt to come in to give us a kind of summary of what the program turned out to be with her program last year.
December or January, Ms. Chairman?
January is fine.
January,
Give us a
okay.
little more time to prepare.
Okay.
Just kind of see where we are with it and how effective it has been.
Okay. With scholarships and college advising, everything. Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and glad to see you, and congratulations, Ms. Muse, and our new chair and vice chair. I'm excited to begin the year in January, working with our new board, and I'm excited to do that. Also, I'm excited just to be part of this Craven County family, and we are a family, and it has never been more apparent to that than the last month, and for that, I appreciate everything. Okay.
You want me to be the one?
Yeah, go for it. Oh, you're just gonna push the button. I'm sorry. I thought you wanted me to be quiet so you could talk. Okay. All right. In academic services, the curriculum instruction is really broken down into two areas: academic services, which Dr. Diggs is in charge of, and strategic planning, continuous improvement, which falls under my wheelhouse. In that, there are two directors, and we only have listed directors in this, but there are also a couple of coordinators that fall in my area as well. Mr. Jason Griffin is the Director of Elementary Education and Federal Programs, and Ms. Lynn Hardison is the Director of Exceptional Children's Program. Much of the work that I do is involved in helping our system re-engage with our continuous improvement model. And so being able to help at all four levels of our district, from the board level to the boardroom to the classroom, helping facilitate and support and monitor the district implementation, making sure our deployment plan stays current and everyone knows where we are on that, and ensuring that we're always moving forward, but we're all aligned and moving in the right direction. The district strategic plan, I know Dr. Dole went over it earlier today. So much of my work is making sure, as I coach school improvement and working with our administrators in the building level, is just the alignment, making sure that our school goals are staying aligned to our district goals, and then that the processes around continuous improvement are ensuring that we're all headed in the right direction. Additionally, we added a professional learning division this year, and it was a new program. It really is, it's not completely new. We had a small piece of it last year in school initiatives, but we included this year because we know in our work, both with blended learning, but as well as this work with continuous improvement, the professional learning of our educators has never been more important than it is right now. I mentioned the school improvement planning and also supervising the ESL program, the English Language Learners. Mr. Jason Griffin is the Director of Elementary Education Federal Programs. Frequently, we hear of him as he's the guy in charge of Title I. And while he does hold Title I, the federal program, in his wheelhouse, he also is the Director of Elementary Education, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm very excited about the work we're doing with literacy. I believe that we are moving in the right direction to be sure that we are sending children to middle and high school that are prepared and are going to be capable of reading the complex text that secondary education expects from them. So he's doing a great job with that. He monitors and he supports and facilitates all of the ESSA compliance, which is the Every Student Succeeds. And he also is a coach for school improvement. Under the elementary education, one of the most important and critical things is pre-readiness skills. And so he and Renee Harrell is the coordinator for our pre-K and family literacy program. We extended that program this year to a family literacy program at Roger Bell. So we have 2 in the West and 1 in the East. The Exceptional Children's Program, the department head is Ms. Lynn Hardison. This is a huge piece of the work that we do, facilitating and supporting and monitoring that program for Craven County Schools is at the top of our of our list of things to do because these are our most vulnerable children and we want to make sure that we're doing our very best with them. Making sure that the money is aligned for state and federal programming and that it is aligned and it is working in conjunction with our strategic plan. Our goal is that all children succeed and all children learn to read and all children are successful as they go through our Craven County schools. She has to be very involved with making sure that federal guidelines with IDEA are met, and she has to do a lot of training and communicating with her staff to be sure that those guidelines are being followed, her people are trained and they're prepared to implement and support all of our exceptional children's program, no matter what their exceptionality is. In that program, we also facilitate and support and monitor the 504 compliance with Craven County schools. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Michelle, I do have a question.
Sure.
What is the financial situation of our EC department? Typically, they run in the red, is that right?
Typically, this is not a typical year.
Well, I mean, even before COVID, they struggled financially, right?
I can't speak before.
I don't know if you want Ms. Lee to answer, I'm happy to answer too.
Either.
I will say, our exceptional children's program has not had to use any additional funds. They are constantly wanting more resources for sure. And there have been a couple of things done, actually helped by some of the work of Mr. Lee to try to look at where they were paying contract services for occupational therapists, and I think it was speech, and to try to work on some things again with Dr. Miller to improve our compensation for those folks so that instead of hiring contractors, we're actually hiring full-time employees. That's been a couple years in the making. But our exceptional children's program should not necessarily be running in the red. And so I'm not exactly sure what you're asking with that question.
I
if that
just
makes
wanted
sense.
to know, like, the stability of the actual program itself. 'Cause I know, like, I've had a lot of stakeholders reach out to me about like specific equipment or, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And I
okay.
know- And I know that they received the MAC money, the Medicaid Administrative Claiming money, and I know that up until a few years ago, that money never left DC, and it was always used for extra TAs or teachers or something like that. So, that's why I was wondering what the financial situation was of EC specifically.
So the MAC money we get every year, and of course it gets reimbursed after the fact. It's reimbursed in arrears. We actually use more than the MAC money to supplement the Exceptional Children's Program with 10 additional locally funded positions,
Right.
as well as their some of their liaisons and other staff. So they have positions that are locally funded, which exceed the amount of MAC money reimbursement we receive.
Right, but I was just wondering, because I know that, even when I worked here, that money hadn't been, it hadn't been used for some of the things that it had been being used for. I know it's not illegal the way it's being spent, but that's why I wanted to know what the financial situation was of our EC department specifically.
We can get you some more clarification on that. I'd be
That'd be
glad to
great.
do that.
That would be great.
I know Ms. Lee that's on her list anyway.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional? Thank you. You all have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
You push the button. I don't have many slides, so you operate. Good afternoon. Congratulations to the returning board member and to our newly elected board member. I certainly look forward to working with you to recruit and retain the best employees for our students in Craven County. I only have a couple of slides, but I want to assure you there's a lot of work that goes into these 2 slides because we take them from pre-employment until retirement, and I certainly want to keep them that long. So I have under me the director, Dr. Irvin Patrick, and we work collaboratively to handle the Human Resource Services Division. So my main processes, administer the classification and compensation system. That includes the pay, determining pay grades for certain levels of employees, and certainly our supplement. This next one, facilitate employee relations processes. That means a whole lot of things, but monitor compliance with board policies. I manage the personnel files, the hiring process, and any recognition programs such as Principal of the Year, Teacher of the Year, and the Pride program. Support and monitor employee evaluations. Administer and monitor position control. That means keeping up with allotments from the state and ensuring we stay within the allotted positions. Develop, facilitate, and continuously improve the Leadership Academy. We are starting that again, actually in January will be our first session for our principals. Facilitate employee exit processing. I've shared with you several times in January, we will begin a new process to seek feedback as folks exit the district to see what areas we're doing well in and what areas we need to improve. Provide certified employee licensure support. Again, I've shared that we have people entering the profession through multiple licensure areas, so that's more critical than ever. Ensure and monitor compliance with state and federal labor laws. Dr. Patrick, his key processes supports certified and classified staff recruitment and selection. That's the virtual recruitment fairs and our in-face recruitment fairs. New employee orientation, we're in the process of having that several times a month and bringing folks in either virtually or face-to-face to orient them to Craven County Schools. Beginning teacher support program, the mentor program, substitute training and support, onboarding processes for all employees, not just licensed teachers, but all employees, and workers' comp management. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do in HR. So I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Our diversity committee, am I using the right term?
Our diversity task force.
Task force, I knew it was something else. Where are we in that?
We rescheduled the first meeting. We've rescheduled for this Wednesday. We have the team members. There's 2 from each school, a novice teacher, a veteran teacher, and we will be meeting with them, of course, virtually because there's so many this Wednesday.
And that meeting is to do what?
To talk about the needs of the district, what recruitment initiatives they would recommend, what can we do, what we do in a good job in, and what can we do better, and any ideas they may have, supports they need. Any other questions?
You said it next Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
At one point, with regard to the diversity committee, it had been discussed about there being a board representative on that committee.
And I'm certainly open to that. Are you volunteering?
No, ma'am. I'm deferring to the chair. I just want to make note that that had been discussed.
Okay.
And I think that might be a good idea.
And I would, if anyone is interested.
Yeah, if somebody can volunteer, if somebody, would you like to be interested, Ms. Clark?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, I will send you a calendar invite for our meeting on Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering. Represent us well. You represent us well when you get there. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anything else? All righty, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, you've had a full day, to say the least, right? Congratulations to everyone who deserves congratulations, which is the entire board. So thank you for all that you do. Before I start, if you go to the next slide, the organization, what I wanted to do was I wanted to thank and recognize this group of department heads. Without exception, and you've met most of these folks, but without exception, they're student focused and they're committed to effective and efficient operations without exception. They do a wonderful job, and it really makes my job relatively easy, to be quite honest with you. So I wanted to thank all these folks. The first department is finance under Ms. Denise Altman, Mrs. Denise Altman. Some of the key processes are noted there, but one of the main things that she does is, I think it was either Ms. Smith or Mr. Ipox comment earlier around financial responsibility of the board. Part of her role is to make sure that we're following all the processes to keep you folks out of trouble. So that's one of her key responsibilities in addition to the ones that are noted there. The budgeting process is probably one of the most important things that she does on an annual basis, but the daily most employee impacting things are, processing payroll, accounts receivable, the purchasing piece. So she and her team touch the employees a lot. Information systems and accountability. This is led by Dr. Ashley Cooper. And this is a relatively, we've always had this in some form or format in Craven County Schools, but with all the work that we're doing around the continuous improvement, he does the day-to-day stuff with student information systems and things like that you would typically see in this group. But we felt that data is going to be so important going forward to make sure that we have a good data scheme, to make sure that we're giving teachers, principals, anybody who needs data readily so they can make decisions and good sound business decisions. So that's really the thrust of Dr. Cooper's work. I mean, he does testing, accountability, and student information systems, but he's also really helping with the continuous improvement process of making that data available. Safety and security. Dr. Doyle mentioned this earlier. This is led by Mr. Nick Lucas. And you've seen and heard from Mr. Lucas a few times, but he builds the safety plans at the school level for buildings like this. He provides training. He works with the principals on their safety plans to make sure everything's up to speed. And he makes sure that we're following all federal, state, local guidelines as far as safety requirements. School nutrition, led by Ms. Lauren Wayand. And again, you've seen many presentations from her, so I think you understand that she is definitely student focused in everything that she does as far as school nutrition for the students. One of the big responsibilities that she has, the obvious are, menu preparations, making sure that we're providing nutritional meals that meet all the guidelines. But she operates as an enterprise fund, so one of her main responsibilities is to make sure that she is financially responsible in that area as well, that we don't have to use local funds to supplement school nutrition, and we don't. I mean, she's really on top of that, and our school nutrition fund is staying whole without exception, and she does a wonderful job as well. Technology services, led by Mr. Ross Friebel. And again, I think the awareness that this area, it's always been important, but now that we have a district goal around technology, and there's really 3 areas of that we're going to be focusing on. The first part of it's relatively obvious. It's the technology piece, the network piece, the device piece, making sure we get things fixed appropriately. The second part is security. And we've always had a focus on network security, but it's even more important now with a blending learning model to making sure that we're deploying devices that are safe as they can be, that our network's as safe as it can be. And sort of taking what we had within 4 walls at one time and propagating that out to make sure we're as safe out there as we are here. It's a daunting task, but we're doing our best with that. And then the last piece around the goal 5 is around the business modernization piece, to where we're looking at improving our financial and HR systems to make those even more effective and efficient. And again, we're hoping this will be seen as a benefit to our employees. And lastly is Dr. Thomasine Hassel over transportation, and she gets them there safely. I mean, that's her job, right? And she's wonderful, as everybody knows. I mean, again, this is an area that we have to operate within a budget. We have an efficiency rating, and this group is really doing a great job over the last couple of years in that area, and we're seeing vast improvement. And another part of what she has to do here is this is an area that you would think would be fairly stable, but it's constantly changing. So she has to make sure her folks are trained up to speed on all the latest requirements as far as it comes to transportation. So that's our group. Any questions?
Very good, thank you, Mr. Lee. Sir?
Good. Thank you.
Chairman Boomer, that's all we have.
God, we would like to thank you for this. This has been very helpful for all of us, for you all putting this together. So it's a roadmap for us that we can keep so that we'll know who's what and what's going on and the different ones in the department and what they do. So I appreciate you. I personally like it. I love your colors.
Yeah, color speak.
It has, this is awesome. So we appreciate that. And so just look like it ends our work day. We have learned a lot since 11 o'clock this morning, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go home. And so there's no more comments, no more questions. We gotta do a plus delta. We're gonna do one? Yes, ma'am. We'll do a plus delta.
Okay.
All right, we'll ask what went well today. What went well today? Thank you, Ms. King.
I think the information presented and having people on hand to answer any questions that would have come up, might have come up.
Everyone's presentations were really organized.
Anything else?
Mrs. Flowers making sure our board procedures manuals were ready.
I'm going to say Ms. Sharp, I think, did a good job. You know, she brought 4 different Bibles for you all to make
Yes,
sure
she
that she
did.
minded your safety considerations. I thought that was very nice.
I like the fact that even though in spite of the COVID, that family members were still able to come and see their loved ones take their rightful position today.
Yeah, that was.
Anything else? Okay, it would have been better if.
If we didn't have the COVID, well, more people could have come.
That's
it.
Anything else? All right, Chairman, it was information presented and having people on hand to answer questions that came up. These are the what worked today. Everyone's presentations were really organized. Ms. Flowers making sure that the board procedures manuals were ready for all board members. Ms. Sharp minded the safety consideration for all board members. Family members were still able to come and see their loved ones celebrated. And what could have been better is if we did not have COVID. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you. If no more questions or comments, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Second.
Meeting, thank you. Moving second, meeting is adjourned. Huh? What'd you say? We got vote on what?
On the adjournment, you're gonna make the motion, second, and vote.
Oh. Say that again.
Just say all in favor.
Just say all in favor.
Oh, all in favor. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Help me out here. Thank you. I was ready to take off. Because I thought he was already up. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Jack it off.